Humans are incredible. We build rockets, cure diseases, and then some of us stick forks in power sockets just to see what happens. These are the real-life stories that prove natural selection still does over time. From people testing bulletproof vests with live ammo, to the guy who fought gravity and lost. Today, we're diving into 49 of the most brain-meltingly stupid ways people actually died. Laugh, gasp, and question humanity, because every one of these is 100% real and 200% unbelievable. Welcome to BrainFumble, where stupidity meets creativity, and usually ends in tragedy. 1. A Toronto lawyer had one mission: to prove his office windows were unbreakable. Every lunch break he'd run at them full speed, bounce off, laugh, and soak up the applause. It became his party trick until one fateful day when confidence met concrete reality. He sprinted harder than ever, slammed the glass, and technically, he was right. The glass didn't break. The entire frame popped out, carrying both him and his ego 24 stories down. The crowd froze as physics claimed another bold volunteer. His co-workers later joked that at least his theory held up longer than he did. 2. A Florida man saw a drawbridge rising and thought, "This is my movie moment." He revved his motorcycle, picturing himself flying like an action hero. But reality doesn't do slow motion or safety rehearsals. As he sped forward, the safety gate came down like a guillotine, hitting him mid-torso and sweeping him off his bike. The riderless motorcycle soared through the air, landed perfectly on the other side, and stood proudly upright. The crowd cheered the bike's landing, then realized its owner had not made the trip. In the end, his stunt proved one thing: gravity always wins the sequel. 3. A man in North Carolina thought taking a selfie with a wild bear would make him viral. He saw the massive animal, grinned, and ran straight toward it holding his phone like a trophy. The bear, unamused by influencer culture, responded with the kind of full-body hug only nature can provide, complete with claws. As onlookers screamed, his phone captured the blur of fur, panic, and a final accidental close-up that became the most terrifying selfie ever taken. Wildlife experts later called it a tragedy. The internet called it natural selection with 4K clarity. Either way, it was a deadly reminder that not everything wants to trend. 4. 2. Arizona men thought stealing a hot air balloon sounded easy enough after a few drinks. They untied it, climbed in, and floated off into the night like geniuses with zero flight training. Laughing, they toasted their perfect crime as the city lights vanished below. But instead of freedom, they drifted into a massive power line grid. The balloon tangled, sparks flew, and their short criminal career turned into an unplanned fireworks show. Witnesses described it as beautiful but stupid. Authorities later said they technically succeeded in getting high, just not the way they imagined. 5. A homeowner in Connecticut decided to trim a massive oak tree himself using an industrial wood chipper. To save time, he placed the machine under the branches so they'd fall right in. But one wrong step off the ladder changed the plan. He slipped, lost balance, and went from project manager to project ingredient in less than a second. Neighbors heard the noise, thought it was the chipper working overtime, and came out to find efficiency taken to its most extreme form. The safety inspector summed it up perfectly. He finished the job, just not the way he intended. 6. A man in Washington found his jet ski battery dead, but instead of charging it on land like a normal person, he decided to save time. He grabbed a car battery, clipped on the jumper cables, held them in both hands, and jumped onto his floating jet ski like he was starting a spaceship. The instant the cables touched water, the lake lit up like a rave. Witnesses said he screamed, "It's working!" right before turning into a human lightning bolt. Fish scattered, lights flickered, and every nearby bird relocated permanently. Investigators later called it the most efficient way to charge your soul, not your battery. 7. 2 men in Oregon tried to siphon gas from a parked RV after midnight. But one of them, a true innovator, inserted the hose into the sewage tank instead. He got a mouthful of liquid regret, while his buddy laughed so hard he dropped his lit cigarette into a puddle of gasoline. The explosion turned their theft into a full backyard fireworks show, complete with screaming, flaming shoes, and a quick realization that karma loves slapstick. By sunrise, the RV was gone, the men were singed, and a new local saying was born: "Don't steal what you can't identify by smell." 8. A man rescued from Death Valley after his car broke down decided he couldn't just abandon it. So, the next morning, he set off on foot to bring it back. 15 miles of desert, 45 degrees Celsius heat, and exactly 0 survival sense. He packed no map, no water, just stubborn pride. Hours later, rangers found him collapsed beside a half-melted water bottle and a note that said, "Didn't want to waste gas." Experts called it the most committed case of sunk cost fallacy ever recorded. The desert didn't care. It simply reminded him that gratitude is optional, but dehydration is mandatory. 9. A self-proclaimed gun enthusiast in Texas decided to impress his friends with a game of Russian roulette, except he used a semi-automatic pistol. For anyone with basic firearm knowledge, that's not a gamble, it's an obituary. He loaded one round, chambered it, pointed it to his head, and pulled the trigger expecting a click. What he got was a bang that ended the lesson early. His stunned friends told police, "We thought he knew what he was doing." He did, just not how his weapon worked. In the eternal scoreboard of humans versus logic, logic remained undefeated. 10. A Detroit man lost a quarter to a vending machine and decided to physically negotiate. He rocked the 850-pound metal beast back and forth until it began tipping. By the time he realized gravity had joined the fight, it was too late. The machine toppled forward, flattening him like a soda can, while the snacks he wanted spilled out around him like trophies. Paramedics later said it was a case of instant karma with exact change. Ironically, his favorite drink, a can of Diet Coke, landed right beside his hand. It was the first and last refund he ever received. 11. When a North Carolina man's truck fuse blew, he didn't panic. He innovated. Lacking a replacement, he stared at his toolbox and spotted a shiny shotgun shell. "Same size," he said, and jammed it right in. He turned the key, and the truck roared to life for a whole second. Then the shell detonated, blowing a hole through his dashboard, his windshield, and his pride. Neighbors thought someone was hunting indoors. His obituary later read, "He died doing what he loved, ignoring instructions." Local police added, "This is the first time we've seen a fuse box fight back." 12. A man in Louisiana bought a stab-proof jacket and couldn't wait to show it off. He gathered friends, handed one a kitchen knife, and said, "Go ahead, prove it works." The friend asked, "You sure?" He said, "I trust the science." The friend trusted gravity. The knife went through the jacket, through his ribs, and straight into the not-stab-proof section of reality. The crowd gasped, paramedics sighed, and the jacket passed one test. It did not survive the stabbing either. The manufacturer later said, "It's stab-resistant, not idiot-resistant." 13. Two Wisconsin fishermen grew bored, waiting for fish to bite, so they decided to spice things up with dynamite. They lit the fuse, tossed it onto the ice, and proudly declared themselves efficiency experts. Then their golden retriever, thinking it was fetch time, sprinted across the lake, grabbed the hissing stick, and ran back wagging its tail. Both men screamed, the dog looked thrilled, and the explosion sent ice, smoke, and panic flying. Locals said the blast could be heard 3 towns away. The fish? Perfectly fine. The fishermen? Permanently done with pets and creative fishing. 14. A tourist at the Grand Canyon thought pretending to fall off the edge would make the perfect prank photo. His friends laughed as he flailed dramatically, pretending to lose balance. Then, in one tiny misstep of cosmic comedy, he did. One step too far, one gasp too late, and gravity finished the joke for him. Cameras kept rolling as his laughter turned into a scream that echoed through the canyon like a warning label. Rangers later said, "He fell for it." Literally. Tourists now say they can still hear echoes at sunset, or maybe that's just the sound of Darwin applauding. 15. In Gabon, Africa, a pastor decided to prove his faith by walking on water during a Sunday service. He marched into the estuary, robe flowing, crowd cheering, declaring that miracles required courage. What he forgot to mention was that he couldn't swim. He took 5 confident steps, 2 nervous ones, then disappeared under the surface faster than his congregation could say, "Amen." The stunned crowd prayed for divine intervention, but all they got were bubbles. News headlines read, "Faith floats, pastor doesn't." Scientists later said the experiment did prove one thing. Belief may move mountains, but it doesn't displace water. 16. In 1989, a skydiver wanted to film his friends jumping out of the plane for a viral video long before YouTube existed. Everyone smiled, waved, and leaped heroically into the blue while he recorded their perfect exits. Then it was his turn. He grinned, pointed the camera at himself, and jumped, capturing his own realization mid-fall that he had forgotten one small detail: his parachute. The video, later recovered, shows 30 seconds of pure terror and one extremely educational final frame. The aviation community called it tragic. The internet calls it the most expensive selfie in human history. Even two Pennsylvania men decided to steal a soda machine from a second-story porch. Their plan was simple: use a wooden plank as a ramp and roll the 800-pound beast right down. Gravity agreed. Too much. The machine shot forward like a missile, launching one of them straight over the railing and onto the pavement below. The soda machine landed upright beside him, completely unharmed, still flashing insert coin. Police later said, "At least the machine survived the robbery attempt." His partner ran, but not before the world's most ironic sight: a vending machine standing tall beside the man who couldn't. 18. An Ohio man decided to repair his truck's leaky gas tank with a welding torch. He figured a little heat would seal the problem. Instead, he found out what happens when flammable fumes meet can-do spirit. The explosion was so massive it launched him through his own garage roof like a human bottle rocket. Neighbors thought it was a meteor. The local fire chief said it was the only repair that truly separated man from machine. His last recorded words were, "I think I got it." Technically, he did, just not the way he intended. 19. In rural Ohio, a 21-year-old was joyriding in a van, throwing rocks at mailboxes. He opened the side door to get a better aim and discovered the law of momentum the hard way. When he hurled the rock, his body followed it. He flew out of the moving van, bounced off the pavement, and rolled straight into Darwin Award history. Witnesses said the mailbox survived perfectly fine, while his friends drove 2 miles before realizing their pitcher had literally left the game. His final throw? A perfect example of self-elimination. 20. A group of terrorists in the Middle East meticulously planned a car bomb attack. Unfortunately, their bomb maker forgot to adjust for daylight saving time. He set the timer for an hour later than expected, loaded the explosives, and began driving to the target. The bomb exploded precisely on schedule, just while he was still behind the wheel. Authorities called it a one-car victory for the calendar. Intelligence analysts later joked that this was the rare case where being late truly saved lives. Sometimes timing isn't everything. It's the only thing. 21. In Ukraine, a young couple wanted a romantic thrill. So, they decided to make love on an active railway track under the stars. Passion met punctuality when a train appeared right on time. The conductor spotted them but couldn't stop in time. Physics never does foreplay. The impact was instant, the story unforgettable, and the moral undeniable. Love may be blind, but trains definitely aren't. Locals still leave flowers near the site, and the station master simply said, they were on the wrong track, in every way possible. 22. After a night of heavy drinking in Arizona, a man wanted to prove his toughness by headbutting a giant saguaro cactus. He charged full speed, yelling, "I'm stronger than nature." Nature disagreed, violently. Hundreds of sharp spines pierced him instantly, turning him into a human porcupine. He stumbled back, collapsed, and never got up. Rangers later confirmed that the cactus, a protected species, was perfectly fine. His tombstone reportedly reads, "Died undefeated by alcohol, destroyed by cactus." 23. A man in Virginia decided to try bungee jumping off a 70-foot railroad bridge, but instead of buying real gear, he measured and made the cord himself. He calculated the length carefully, but forgot one crucial factor: elasticity. When he jumped, the rope stretched far beyond his math homework, slingshotting him straight into the ground at full speed. The bystanders screamed. The bridge didn't. Investigators said it was technically a success. The bungee worked, just not for long. It's the only jump in history that started with excitement and ended with a physics lesson. 24. A woman on a 12-hour bus ride from Glasgow to London was desperate for a cigarette. The driver refused to stop, so she took matters, and the emergency door, into her own hands. At 60 miles per hour, she yanked the lever, flung the door open, and tried to step out for a quick smoke break. The laws of motion disagreed. She was sucked out instantly, leaving passengers screaming and the driver staring at a single cigarette rolling down the aisle. The headline the next day read, Smoker takes last drag, literally. 25. A 20-year-old car thief in Louisiana got pulled over but refused to give up his masterpiece. Handcuffed in the back of a police cruiser, he wriggled free, crawled through the partition, and stole the actual police car. Sirens blaring, adrenaline pumping, he led officers on a high-speed chase, in their own vehicle. When they finally spun him out, the car flipped, and the irony peaked. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt. The cops said, "We would have arrested him again, if gravity hadn't beaten us to it." It's still considered the most self-defeating getaway in Louisiana history. 26. An Alaskan man received a suspicious package in the mail that looked like a bomb. Instead of calling experts, he did what every horror movie character would do. He took it to the police station. When officers started examining it, he got impatient, grabbed it back, and shook it while asking, "So, what do you think's inside?" The answer came faster than anyone expected. The explosion was so strong, it set off every car alarm in the parking lot. The bomb squad never even got to finish their coffee. His obituary should have just read, "He asked," and got an explosive answer. 27. An animal handler at an Oklahoma sanctuary had one rule: never enter the liger's cage during feeding time. A liger, for the record, is a 900-pound lion-tiger hybrid that doesn't do gentle. But curiosity killed this cat lover. He climbed in with a stake in hand to bond. The liger accepted his offer, but skipped the small talk. When rescuers arrived, only his shoes and radio were intact. Fellow workers said, "He always had a big heart." Unfortunately, that's exactly what the liger went for first. 28. A hotel cleaner in Mexico wanted to shout to her friend downstairs. Instead of taking the stairs, she leaned into a large elevator shaft to yell. Unfortunately, she forgot one critical thing: elevators move. The rising car met her head at full speed, cutting off both her sentence and her shift permanently. The friend below said it was the loudest hello and the shortest goodbye he'd ever heard. Engineers later used the incident in safety training titled, "Always Mind the Shaft." 29. A Belgian mechanic got tired of his pants falling down at work. His solution? Use the shop's high-pressure air hose to inflate them. He stuck the nozzle inside his waistband and created a perfect seal. Seconds later, 120 psi of compressed air transformed him into a human balloon. His body literally inflated, rupturing internal organs instantly. The explosion rattled toolboxes across the shop. The foreman said he wanted to look pumped. He succeeded. OSHA called it the most preventable workplace tragedy of the decade, though co-workers admitted it was kind of impressive for half a second. 30. In Pennsylvania, a logger decided to take down a massive dead oak tree alone. He cut the base cleanly, but didn't notice two other trees leaning against it. The moment he made the final slice, all three collapsed like dominoes, converging on his position with surgical precision. His chainsaw survived. He did not. Locals said they'd never seen someone so thoroughly outnumbered by trees. Forest officials dubbed it the most literal example of getting buried in your work. His gravestone now sits beneath the same forest canopy he accidentally redesigned. 31. In Michigan, two best friends decided to reenact the legendary William Tell trick after several drinks. One placed an empty beer can on his head while the other aimed a rifle. Confidence was high, coordination was not. The bullet missed the can completely and found his friend's forehead instead. The bar went silent, the shooter screamed, and the police called it one of the most predictable tragedies of the year. Locals still talk about it as the night stupidity took perfect aim. The hospital bill arrived before the ambulance did, but one thing was clear: friendship has no armor against alcohol and gunpowder. 32. A tourist in California proved that smartphones can outsmart their owners. While walking near a 600-foot cliff, he was too busy texting to notice the warning signs around him. He smiled at his screen, typed one last emoji, and stepped straight into the open air. Witnesses said he didn't even look up as he fell. Search teams found his phone shattered beside him, still glowing with a half-written message. It was the clearest proof that technology can connect us to the world, but also disconnect us from reality faster than gravity ever could. 33. In the United Kingdom, a 16-year-old boy decided to steal copper wire from a power substation. The danger of death signs did not impress him. He climbed the fence, grabbed his pliers, and started cutting. The moment metal touched live current, Electricity reminded him that voltage is not negotiable. The explosion threw him 20 feet backward and melted the tools in his hands. Investigators later said the wires were still perfectly intact, which made him the only thing that got short-circuited that night. 34. Two brothers in Ohio wanted to collect insurance money by burning down their sandwich shop. They poured gasoline, tossed a lighter, and ran for the door. What they did not notice was that one brother had dropped a cigarette earlier near the counter. The fumes caught and the entire place exploded before they reached the exit. The fire department arrived to find both men half-singed and the shop ironically renamed by the blaze itself. It was the only sandwich place in town that truly served something hot and fresh. 35. Two women in Mexico climbed onto a van parked near a rural runway to take the perfect selfie. They smiled, adjusted the angle, and waited for a small plane to pass behind them. What they missed was the second plane coming from the opposite direction. The wing clipped them before the camera even focused. The photo was never posted, but their story still went viral. Pilots later called it a tragic example of focus in the wrong direction, while the internet called it evolution by influencer. 36. A man in Tennessee thought riding a shopping cart tied to the back of an SUV would make for a funny video. The SUV swerved to avoid traffic, and the cart didn't follow the plan. It swung into oncoming lanes and collided with a car head-on. Bystanders said it looked like a stunt show gone wrong, but it was just another audition for the Darwin Awards. The SUV driver escaped with a fine, while his friend's last ride became the shortest viral challenge in history. 37. In Wyoming, a hunter decided to chase a jackrabbit using a snowmobile. The rabbit darted into a concrete drainage pipe, and the man followed right behind thinking he could fit. The snowmobile slammed into the pipe entrance, while the rabbit popped out the other side completely unharmed. The rescue crew said it was like watching nature win in high definition. The only thing the man caught was a reminder that rabbits turn corners faster than engines ever will. 38. A man in Germany declared war on the moles destroying his lawn. His battle plan was simple: connect metal rods into the ground and hook them up to a nearby high-voltage line. The moment he flipped the switch, his yard lit up brighter than a football stadium. Neighbors heard a loud pop and saw smoke rising from his shoes. The moles survived untouched while their attacker became the only true spark in the operation. Officials later called it lawn care by electrocution. 39. In Seattle, a man tried to rob a gun store armed with nothing but a baseball bat. The owner was cleaning his own weapon behind the counter when the thief stormed in. He demanded cash and took one confident step forward before the situation ended exactly as logic predicted. Police arrived minutes later to find a very quiet crime scene and an unbroken display case. Reporters called it the shortest robbery in city history and possibly the most educational. 40. At a New Year's Eve party in Canada, a student decided to perform a polar bear swim under the ice. The plan was to dive into one hole and come out another just a few feet away. He jumped in surrounded by cheering friends but never resurfaced. Divers later found him trapped under the ice only 2 meters from safety. The party ended in silence as everyone realized that winter water never forgives bravado. His final mistake proved that timing is everything, especially when the clock strikes 0. 41. In a Pennsylvania bar, a man got into a heated argument about gun safety. To prove his weapon was perfectly safe, he pressed it against his temple and pulled the trigger. The silence that followed proved him wrong instantly. Witnesses said he was calm right until the end, confident he was teaching a lesson, but the only thing he taught was why bars and firearms never mix. The coroner later summed it up best: the gun was fine, the theory was not. 42. A man in New Jersey thought the median of a busy highway would be a good place to sleep off a long night. He spread his blanket right between the lanes under the stars and drifted off to dreams of peace and quiet. By morning, there was nothing peaceful left. Drivers who saw the scene said it was like waking up to a traffic cone that moved at the worst possible time. The police called it a case of fatigue meeting bad geography. The highway was closed for hours and the lesson was clear: no nap is worth 4 lanes of traffic. 43. In England, a man climbed to the top of a moving Ferris wheel during a fair to wave at the crowd. He balanced on the roof of one car, hands up like a champion of attention. Then, he lost his footing and fell only to be caught again and again as the wheel turned, crushing him under each passing cart in slow, rhythmic motion. The ride operator fainted, the crowd screamed, and the carnival earned a new rule that year. It was the only ride where gravity handed out tickets. 44. In France, a zoo worker decided to test a new tranquilizer on a rhinoceros by hand instead of using a dart gun. He tiptoed into the enclosure, jabbed the rhino with a needle, and froze as the massive animal turned. The rhino charged and flattened him into the ground before he could blink. When keepers arrived, the syringe was still stuck in his palm, proof that sometimes science works faster than survival instincts. Visitors later called it the most unforgettable live demonstration in the park's history. 45. In Belgium, two burglars tried to steal a safe from the third floor of an apartment building. Their plan was simple: push it out the window so it would smash open on the concrete below. They counted to 3, shoved it hard, and cheered as it fell. What they forgot was that one of them had gone downstairs to wait. The safe hit him perfectly square, turning a bad plan into an accidental burial. The partner upstairs looked down and whispered the most accurate summary ever spoken: mission complete. 46. In Brazil, a man tried to break into a car using a heavy rock. He lifted it above his head and hurled it with all his strength, expecting the glass to shatter dramatically. The reinforced window did not break. It bounced the rock straight back into his face and knocked him out cold. When police arrived, they found him lying beside the car with a perfect imprint of the rock on his forehead. The car was untouched, still locked, still silent, and the thief was already arrested by gravity itself. 47. In Florida, a warehouse worker thought it would be funny to use a forklift to lift a single can of beer from a tall shelf. He maneuvered it carefully, raised the forks, and managed to grab the can, but when he started backing up, the machine tilted and toppled over. The beer landed perfectly, the man did not. His co-workers watched in shock as the forklift pinned him to the floor while the untouched can rolled to a stop beside him. It was the most expensive drink ever fetched, and the first time a forklift completed a performance review by itself. 48. In California, a homeowner was tired of paying high electricity bills and decided to power his house by connecting it directly to a 12,000-volt line. He threw a long cable over the wire while standing in his wet backyard. The moment it touched, he became a circuit. The explosion lit up the neighborhood brighter than fireworks and left his entire yard smoking. The electric company later said it was the most convincing reason they had ever seen to keep paying the bill. Neighbors still talk about the night one man became his own light source. 49. At a zoo in Washington, D.C., a man wanted to impress his girlfriend by jumping into the cheetah enclosure. He climbed the barrier, landed inside, and smiled as if he had done something heroic. The cheetahs looked at him for 3 seconds before deciding lunch had arrived early. By the time security rushed in, the show was already over. The girlfriend fainted, the crowd screamed, and the man proved beyond doubt that love really can kill. The zoo later added a new sign that simply reads, "Do not enter, the animals are faster than you." And that was 49 unforgettable ways humanity proved that natural selection is still on duty. Each one started with confidence and ended with confusion, a perfect summary of our species. If you laughed, you're human. If you learned, you're lucky. Which one made you question human logic the most? Tell me in the comments, and let's see which mistake wins the gold medal for stupidity. Hit like before gravity hits you back, and subscribe to BrainFumble, where curiosity meets chaos and common sense never survives the ending credits.